9 News Investigates is bringing us exclusive new body camera video today of a shooting at East High School from last year.
2 deans were shot by a student a little more than a year ago. The body camera video shows those chaotic moments of the response that morning. So we're going to continue our team coverage now with crime and justice reporter Kelly Rinke and investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen. You both have been investigating this for more than a year. Walk us what you've learned so much over the last year. What did you learn today?
Well, I think this kind of gave us kind of a new perspective. We now have video of that day that shows the chaotic moments, that really kind of gives us a glimpse of what happened in that room. But we also got video that kind of gave us a little bit more details about what the district knew prior to that shooting.
And that's really been the central part of this entire story is why was the district putting people staff members in a situation where they were forced to do safety checks to look for weapons when we know that the district wasn't training them for this. And it really came together in March of last year inside room 129 inside East High School, this idea that a person who was asked last minute to go into this room to check on this student all of a sudden notices a gun on him and asks for additional help, and then there's 2 people shot, 2 people who very well could have died inside East High School.
So rather than this being a very well-focused plan with all these specifics to it, it's pretty haphazard, is what you're seeing in this video.
It's remarkable how haphazard it appears to be, and it follows along with our reporting for a number of months, talking specifically about what was DPS doing in terms of putting staff members potentially at risk by asking them to either do pat-downs. We now know this wasn't necessarily a pat-down, but more of a safety check inside these rooms, and then asking them to deal with students. Sometimes they knew these students' backgrounds, and sometimes they didn't. And that was a dangerous situation that we saw come together in March.
And remember, Austin Lyle was not being searched for weapons until just a few weeks prior to this shooting. When he started at East High School in January of 2023, they knew about his history of weapons at a different county. But at the time, it was just a verbal check-in. Hey, just check in with the assistant principal, just make sure you're okay. And it's not until a student reports seeing Austin Lyle with the gun on campus just a few weeks prior to that shooting that they decided to change that plan. Hey, we're now going to check him for weapons. But that's the key again. It wasn't a pat down. I think when we think of pat down, it's actually like a physical pat down of a student. So
it's just a verbal conversation.
Well, when they changed that policy, it was actually a search. It was, okay, empty out your backpack, empty out your pockets. But again, that didn't start until a few weeks prior.
And it was an indirect search. Keep in mind, for a number of weeks that Austin Lyle, when he was going to East for these weeks, while he was under this more intense search, he was asked voluntarily to sort of empty his backpack, to empty his pockets. There was no pat down that was taking place with him, and it just so happens that a new dean, a new person is asked to check him that day, and on that day he has a gun on him, he sees an outline of a gun, and that's when everything starts.
Wow. I'll tell you what, just seeing this video, it's a lot when you think of Colorado and what we've seen in the past when you're talking about guns in schools and the result, and watching the police go in knowing they have no idea what they're facing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and just a sad situation too when you talk about 2 deans shot and a student who ended up taking his own life. We've heard from one of the deans so far who actually had a lot of empathy for Austin, just wishing that he would be able to have a conversation with him. So all around, just like such a sad situation for everyone involved.
And Kim, you know those parents. I mean, we see the officers showing up on scene because they don't know what's going on. They just know that there's been a shooting inside East High School. And shortly thereafter, the parents start to get the texts and the phone calls. And it's that horrible situation that we've just experienced here in Colorado way too much.
So you guys will have some more reporting during our 5 o'clock hour and at next tonight, right? So we can see more then? All right. Chris Vanderveen, Kelly Rinke, thanks for your ongoing work on this story.